really two main things came out of our first 5 years of research. One was that the way that the courts assess children's ability to testify is just crazy. They ask kids abstract questions about truth and lies. They basically confuse the younger kids. The older kids feel patronized, and the answers don't have anything to do with the likelihood that the child's telling the truth or not telling the truth. So one of the first things we established is that the courts just have it all wrong. The more interesting part of the research was to then say, well, is there anything that the courts can do or that interviewers can do to increase children's honesty? Because that's what all this talk about truth and lie was designed to do. And what we found is that although talking about truth and lies doesn't matter, doesn't affect the child, asking the child to promise to tell the truth has a real and actually rather dramatic effect on children's honesty. And we showed that this was true in several different contexts. Contexts where the child doesn't want to disclose the truth because they've done something wrong. Contexts in which the child has been coached to falsely allege that something has happened. And contexts in which the child has been actively coached to keep something a secret. Across all of those conditions, we've shown that a promise to tell the truth improves children's performance. And so, of course, the practical implications of this is that rather than ask children questions about their understanding of truth and lies, we should ask them to promise to tell the truth. And that we should do this not just in court, where it's typical to ask kids to take an oath of some sort, but also in interviews that we do with children before we even get to court. So our new grant is technically a continuation of the first 5 years. So we've essentially got another 5 years of funding. And so we're building on the progress we made in the first 5. Our primary interest is to find other ways that we may be able to encourage children to tell the truth about bad things that have happened without tainting their reports. And so it might be best to give you an example of one of the techniques that's proven successful in some of our early research. One of the things that we've thought about is that oftentimes children won't disclose because the perpetrator, the person who's done something wrong, has asked the child to keep what they did a secret. And the child may be concerned about getting in trouble and also getting the perpetrator in trouble. So what we've done is we have a very simple instruction that suggests to kids who do have a secret that they should disclose without tainting children's reports who don't have a secret. And what we do is this, is we say at the beginning of the allegation phase, the man that you interacted with, whoever the suspect would be, told me everything that happened and he wants you to tell the truth. And the beauty of it is that if a child does have a secret to tell, the child thinks, oh my gosh, the man has told you. If the child doesn't have a secret to tell, then the child reacts like, oh, well, sure, I'll tell you everything I've done with this guy. This isn't a big deal. So there's nothing about the instruction that suggests abuse to a child who hasn't been abused. And what we've shown in our laboratory research is that, indeed, this pretty dramatically increases children's willingness to disclose when some bad things have happened in the lab. The other novel aspect of the new line of research is that we've also proposed some field research, right? Because the good thing about lab research is you know what's really happened, you know what the truth is. The bad thing is that you're not encouraging children to disclose abuse, you're encouraging them to disclose minor things that go wrong in the laboratory. What we want to find out is, can we move these techniques we've perfected in the lab into the field? So when we question children who are actually suspected of being abused, can we improve their performance? Can we increase the disclosure rate? And that's really the novel aspect, because there's a lot of research on children. There's very little research that systematically changes how we talk to children in actual abuse cases. We also do a lot of what you'd call archival research, where we look at actual trials or actual interviews of kids. And it's actually pretty distressing to see these trial transcripts and these interview transcripts. Because although what people usually in the public find out about or hear about are cases where, there have been false allegations, where people have been very leading and suggestive and children have said things that simply weren't true. What we tend to find in the interviews, and in particular in the court transcripts, is children come in and give what are really clear reports of abuse. But because of the ways that they're questioned by prosecutors as much as defense attorneys, their reports sound less credible. The child sounds more coached, less real. And as a result, one sees a quite high rate of acquittals And if you look at the interviews, one sees quite high rate of cases that are never followed up. The police don't even try to get the prosecutor to prosecute. The social worker doesn't believe that abuse occurred, and there's no protection for the child. And so one of my major concerns in doing this work is that we're doing a disservice to children in two ways. On the one hand, we are often excessively suggestive, and we do potentially create false reports. That's been paid a lot of attention to in the media. But the other side of it, I don't think is paid as much attention to. And that's the problem that children who really have been abused are mistreated by the system in such a way that their stories aren't believed and that the children are not protected.